So what I was saying, now we got the first two versions, each of us, of the map, which is evolving, and we are adding more and more units. Of course, we have to fix some of the limits. Now, when it comes to the geological features, it can be tricky. Like here, you see my mouse. Here we are clearly on the ejecta. Here we are clearly on the rim. Where is the limit? Now, it's not always easy, but if you look in detail, here, you see this guy here, this carp. This seems to be a sort of limit. Now, I cannot tell really which one, but I will say that somewhere here, there is a limit. And maybe here I can stop because it's certain. Actually, I should have stopped it a bit earlier, but okay. This is certain. Then here it's becoming a bit fuzzy. I know that there has to be ejecta here, and I know that there has to be a rim here, but where to put the limit? Well, what I can do is that I create a new, I can save, of course. Just I suggest always to save in case there is any mess with the computer. Here, for example, I can say, well, here I'm not so certain. So I will say that here somewhere I put a limit. This seems bedrock on the left, on the right now. And this, I call it uncertain, okay?
And even if they are two different contacts, the important thing is that they cross.
Exactly. But the nice thing of having this approach, for example, now I can actually symbolize, sorry, the point of using an attribute to the contacts, which is by all means is not prescriptive. So certain, I can call them green. Uncertain, I can call them, it's okay. All other is not needed, okay? Now here you see that here green is certain, this was uncertain because we just did it too fast. Here, sorry, I want to stop the editing. Okay, here we got more or less the same limit that is changing from certain to uncertain. I think this is very important because it allows us to get, it gives us more flexibility, okay? I suggest that since we have 3 hours or 2.5 hours after lunch, if you get started now with the units and with the contacts, sorry, particularly the one that are easier, then you can have a bit more thoughts on the one that are trickier. And don't worry about using multiple lines. As long as they cross, it's okay. And they will do, the topology game will work. Do you have any question at the moment? Of course, you can help yourself with topography. Now I close everything, but if you have some doubts, topography here won't solve everything, but it will give you some ideas, okay? Of like how thick is the deposits here. So I will say that the maximum thickness of the deposits here is about 600 meters. Do you agree with me? From here to here.
Yes.
Roughly.
I think so. But I have another question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think I cannot use this plugin.
Why?
Because I open it, terrain profile, and all I see is flat.
Can you, yes, wait. I maybe there is a trick. Let me show you where the trick may be. So, by the way, you want to see which is the DTM? I should turn it on. Okay, this is the DTM. Now, let me see if I can reproduce this, okay? Sorry. You see it's flat, right? Like that. Same
Yes.
problem?
See, yes.
Okay. Now it's also flat. If I do this, it's not flat. You know why?
Yeah.
It's like when you take a picture and you saturate. if I click, you see the DTM as an extent, which is the same of the image. If I start the profile outside, it doesn't understand. So if I do this, it doesn't understand. If I do this, it does.
Yeah.
So what we want to arrive at is essentially a map of the whole basin here with some units and some linear features. Now, I think that the mechanics, it's clear to you. You already know it very well from the previous from the previous tutorials. The central peak. Now, how picky you want to be with the peak? For example, you could, again, you can also map here. Please do it nicer than I do. Now I'm being very lazy, but you can do better. I just want to get to the, okay, this again, dark deposits. Of course, you can change the, we have the drop down. Here, for example, the central peak, how do we map it? Just in case, save. Well, we could map in a way, we could just say, okay, let's make it an envelope. If you're looking at the very small scale, we can just make an envelope of it. And we call it, I think it's not good enough, but I can fix it. Central peak. Oh, it didn't work. Apologies. So we can just use the envelope of the whole thing and call it central peak. Okay. Wait, what happens to my computer? Or we can map the individual ones. This is up to you. I will say that at 1 to 100K, you may also be able to map the individual ones. So up to you. And also, it will be good, you have to prioritize. It will be good to have a complete map of the basin, so you can have an idea of the relationship with the different units. But so if you want to be faster, you can map it as an envelope, or if you want to be more precise, you can map the individual parts. I suggest you to also keep track of something like that, but by all means, you can do it the way you like it. You can put it on a PowerPoint presentation. For example, you do this, and you can just say, this is my map. You add it and say stratigraphy as it comes. And you're putting your things here, and then you put linear features. And you add, again, the map as a possible additional final map. Okay, and you can save it. So it's up to you if you want to do it this way or another one. But it will be good if you can approach the scale of the basin. So don't map in too much detail. For example, this, we're leaving everything else out. Try to do it. Before, I think we break for lunch, and then you can continue on your own, and I will be there in the after lunch break. I will also like to have a look at the linear features, because there is something that may be interesting. For example, here I put some contacts. Well, not very well, but that's okay. Then I got this feature here. This is probably layers that have been eroded. Am I sure? Well, I'm not. So what I can do, I can add into linear mapping, I can add some linear features. Linear features are something that are on the map coming as bidimensional, monodimensional topology, but this I can call it rich, and I can note I'm not sure. Okay, the colors are horrible, so we wanted something bright. Okay, good. Or we want it thicker. Okay. Okay, sorry, this color was not really the best. It's not very visible. Good. This one. Yeah. So now this is a linear feature. You think I can get some faults here? Well, that's probably a bit more difficult, but we can have some faults and maybe add to the nodes uncertain. For example, these ridges are probably, they're filled on the top, there's some entering, but at the base, probably there is a fault. So what I can do is that it may or may not be a contact, but what I can do is that I can map here fault, unclear or uncertain, okay? And I can start symbolizing. For example, the faults are typically often categorized as red. I can save by linear type. And I can say that the fault has to be red. Okay. The ridge has to be green, that's okay. And now if I look around, on top of my map, I start to have linear faults. I can start also mapping the channel, both as a polygon, because it has a kind of a bidimensional shape, but also I can try to do it very briefly also as a linear feature, the Talberg. And this can be done like that. I can roughly go at the center and I can move on. So basically, if you do this for your areas and you start making your map evolve, you will see the context, you will see the relationship, and okay, and so on and so forth. So I would suggest we break now. And I don't know how far you have been with your map. Maybe we can do a screen sharing afterwards, but basically we can continue like that and try to identify the units, identify their limits, and then figuring out the relative age. So we could already start hinting at the relative position, but it's probably good if you have a map at the basin scale, which is getting complete, to have an idea of the relative stratigraphy of the different units.